So second live stream for today. Let's wait till this thing simmers. Just got done training. Guys, I just uploaded Kambosos versus Hitchins. It's on the playlist. If you're catching this late, you could watch that. If you're catching it live, we could chat about it. We went live earlier today. This morning when I first woke up, we talked a little bit about some of the odds. We talked about some method of victory bets. Now, I think I'm watching some of the other content creators on YouTube, and a lot of people aren't excited about this weekend's boxing matches. But guys, I'm looking at the odds and I'm looking at the method of victory options, and I think our biggest question we need to answer is how greedy do we want to get? Because if you're one of these people who go heavy on prop bets, there's a couple prop bets that I feel, I never use the word lock. But if somebody were to ask me, what are your locks of the weekend? There's like a little two-leg parlay that I think is, you know, statistically speaking, pretty close to a lock. But we'll wait to get into that. Lots happening in boxing today in the world of boxing, not just fights this week. So if you guys have any questions about the fights specifically going down this weekend, we could start there. And like always on the live streams, as it goes on and on, it'll turn into the Wild West. So what's up, Goat? So we could keep it civil initially, and then we could get, depending on how many people tune in, we'll see what happens. Goat, what's your opinion on this? And whoever else catches this, I'm on my book, and I'm putting, and this is from you guys. A lot of you guys are telling me, and statistically speaking, if you take Andy Cruz, the fight to go the distance, and if you take the George Kambosos fight to go the distance, that's almost a two. That's plus 2-to-1 money. And so you could even juice those odds up if you're really comfortable and not seeing Hitchins or Cruz get a stoppage. You could then go, what's up, Don Julio? You could then go on a two-leg parlay, Hitchins by decision, Cruz by decision, and it pays good money. Now, it's in the money line that the odds aren't too good. So it's going to be up to you. I'm placing my bets tomorrow morning because these odds are getting so shifty. I kind of wish I would have placed my heavy bet yesterday on what I wanted to do, but we didn't get the option. And yes, I'm going to talk about Glanton. And Goat, this is why I asked you the question, because I actually like Andy Cruz to win by stoppage. I do. I think Andy Cruz is going to stop Mishiro. And I can see Hitchins' jab playing a big problem for George. I could see George taking a lot of shots. You know, he got hit a lot against Jake Wiley. Rewatch that fight. Jake Wiley, when you look at Wiley's career, he's a domestic level Aussie. People fell in love with that knockout to win ratio. He fought a bunch of Thais who were Muay Thai fighters. Jake Wiley's best win was against Deadly Dana Coolwell, who's my boy. But that fight was at 135 pounds. Dana is a 126 fighter. You guys might recognize Dana Colwell from, he fought Shushu Carrington and he fought Chop Chop Gonzalez. So Dana's a good fighter. But Jake Wiley beat Dana at 135 on short notice when Dana's a 126 guy. So my point is, I thought George should have stopped Jake Wiley. He didn't. And I like the version of Hitchins I saw against Paro versus the version we saw against Lemos. Hitchins, 27 years old. You then also have to ask the question, if you're leaning on Hitchins and you're using your reasoning to bet money on Hitchins because he's the world champion and he's trending in the right direction, you got to ask yourself, the champions at 140, GAR, Teo, Alberto Puello, where does Hitchins rank in those top four? Is Richardson Hitchins good enough, or will he be good enough to beat any other champions at 140? And if you could sit back and say yes, then I think you should feel comfortable in him stopping George. But I want to hear if anybody here thinks that Hitchins could beat any other of those champions at 40. Because that's where I'm just kind of torn on where I'm going with my money. I obviously picked on my breakdown video, King Tai, easy week. Easy week on the money lines or easy week on the props? I don't think he is, at least not yet. Don Julio, that's what I'm thinking. And we look at him and Teo are about the same age. I mean, him, Teo, and GAR, I think Puello is the division is decent. Alberto Puello, could you imagine if he started finishing guys? Hitchins may beat Teo. And I think that's where Hitchins doesn't get his flowers, is the problem he poses. We love to cheer for a guy who has that problem of power. You know, if this guy has big one-punch knockout power, he obviously, you know, it has a puncher's chance to end a fight at any time. But this era of boxing fans, maybe it's due to the media, it's you don't see a lot of fans getting on board of a guy who's tall for the division, who's long for the division, who has a high boxing IQ and has a great jab. And that's Richardson Hitchins. Everything I just said, 5'11", 74-inch reach. George has a 68-inch reach. 74-inch reach at 140 is pretty good. Cam not that much smaller than Hitchins. I mean, I'm talking frame-wise he is, though. Nonetheless, Cam's corner might throw it in. And I could see his stoppage. Frame-wise, I mean, 5'11", 5'9", but when you look at the length, of how they fight, 74 versus 68, he didn't even stop Barbosa. You're talking about Teo. Now, I don't know why Arnold Barbosa is getting hit with strays. I'm an Arnold Barbosa fan. I love ABJ catching strays out here. You know, but Teo, for you to say he couldn't even stop Arnold Barbosa, what are you talking about? You're acting like Arnold Barbosa is a guy who gets starched all the time, or a guy who's notoriously known for getting knocked out. ABJ is a great fighter. Does he knock dudes out? No, but he knows his way around the ring. Yeah, agreed, 6-inch reach difference. And the reason why I reference that 6-inch reach difference, why that's important, it's because how Hitchins fights. Not all guys with a long reach advantage fight using that advantage, but he does. You know, he fights long. I like to think, I mean, when you look at Hitchins, especially when he was turning pro, we kind of talk like he's not a world champion. That's the insane thing. Is he underrated or is he overrated? He's kind of a sort of like dilemma in my eyes. I mean, he beat Liam Perro, and a lot of people picked Perro to win that fight, considering Perro was coming off of the victory against Matias. I think so. I think so. And I told you in my breakdown video, I just uploaded my breakdown and prediction video. It's on my playlist, the prediction playlist, and I told you why. And in those videos, I have a lot of reason to my decisions. And I don't like what George looked like against Wiley. Think about George's split decisions he's won as well. We got Mickey Bay, you got Maxie Hughes, you got Teofimo Lopez won by split decision. We'll see. And I was actually shocked breaking the video down. I thought George was older than 31. It just seems like Kambosos Jr. is like 35, but he's only 31. I just finished sparring. What's good? What's up, Zoomine? Yeah, appreciate you. You were on here earlier. Hopefully you got some good rounds in. We're just talking about, I'm breaking down my reasoning on why, if you want to increase your odds, I think the odds would be either to go with Hitchins stopping George or it going to the decision. I mean, you'd have to also think with Hitchins, when you think path to victories, which George's path to victory? He doesn't have a great jab. We know he wants to get into a fight, so he's going to be there to get hit. Is he as resilient as he was prior to the Loma fight? That's what I'm saying, Don Julio. The fight is in New York City. Hitchins has that championship rub now. Cam and some years think of Josh Taylor. He's barely 34. Yeah, been in some wars. Can you see it going the distance? I don't, guys. I don't. And I told you in my breakdown video when you watch it, I told you my heart is with George. I'll be cheering for Kambosos to become a 2-division world champion. I'll be cheering for him to beat Richardson Hitchins. But I'm not betting on him to beat him. So my dad always said, bet with your wallets, never with your hearts. So I always adhere to that. And that's why running my channel, I do my best to be unbiased, because a lot of times I'll bet against the guy that I'm cheering for. Teofimo Lopez versus Barbosa Jr., I was cheering. I took Barbosa, or my bad. I was wrong on that. Raleigh versus Ryan. I told you in my breakdown, I was cheering for Raleigh to win. I was saying my heart was with Raleigh, but I thought I picked Ryan. I put my money on Ryan, and I know I lost. That rarely ever happens. If a fighter ages, yeah, it's more about the tread on the tires. Exactly. It's not the age, Brandon. It's a great point. It's not the age of the vehicle, right? The fighter. It's the tread on the tire. And that's what I'm talking about. So when George is on paper 31 years old, he has a lot of tread missing on those tires. And I think Richardson Hitchins hasn't even gotten started yet. You know what I'm saying? So like yeah, Kyle, it's just a phrase my boxing coach used to say in my old gym in Ohio. You know, how much tread on the tires does that fighter have? You know, when talking old boxing. And that's kind of something I've always kept in the back of my mind because it's true. You see fighters, okay, Edwin De Los Santos. We know he didn't fight. We know he's a year younger than Keyshawn. Edwin De Los Santos is a year younger than Keyshawn. Another guy, a lot of people were shocked how young he was. Emmanuel Navarrete, the same thing. You talk about the tread on his tires, not even counting the war with Teo. Yeah, he's been in. That's what I'm thinking. And Loma stopped him late. He didn't look good against Wiley. I don't know. I'm starting to convince myself that I could see Hitchins. Because also we have to think about what's Hitchins at his full potential. This is a guy at 27 who became a world champion and still hasn't had that performance yet. You know what I'm saying? Hitchins hasn't had the bell, you know, the ref stops it. He jumps on the corner. He turns to his people. He hasn't had that moment. And I think he's due. And I think he might have that moment. That could change everything, especially with Keyshawn. You know, I know different divisions. He talks about wanting to go to 140. And one of those things that elevated Keyshawn prior to this past weekend, which definitely dropped his stock, was he had that moment. And when you look at young fighters who become world champions, they always have that moment en route to becoming a champion. It's almost like Hitchins skipped that bit. He's yet to have that moment. I think he's going to have that moment. Gonna sound stupid, but the only thing stopping me is the fact that Cam's birthday fight. This fight will look like Hitchins versus Bowser 2.0, I promise. Hitchins gets a knockout, but Hitchins has to fight Teo, GAR, Matias, Puyo next. And Koki, that's if you're jumping on right now, it's something I started this live stream about, listing off the other 140-pound champions and where would you rate Hitchins. Now, a couple nights before the fight, I put Hitchins at 4. You know, I would probably go at their best. It's just because what have you done for me lately? The version of GAR who beat Ryo, mate, I don't know, man. If that GAR could fight like, if that's who he is, which some people think he is, I don't think anyone beats him at 140. If that GAR who beat Ryo is who he thinks he is and who we think he is, I don't think anyone beats him. So I would go GAR, maybe Teo above Puyo, but Puyo is a tough out too because his southpaw style and his ring IQ and his movement. But then I would definitely put Hitchins at 4. Now, if Hitchins goes into this weekend and knocks out Kambosos and has one of these moments I was talking about, would that change my order? Maybe. Let's say Hitchins goes in and starches George, knockout, looks amazing, looks sharp, and fights on his front foot instead of his back foot, which we used to see. You could see Richard fighting different styles. If he does that, then I would say I would take Hitchins over Puyo because Hitchins could box. But what he doesn't do is he used to fight on his front foot. As of late, he fights on his back foot. Yeah, potentially. So this is why it's so intriguing. And this is why, you know, the conversation needs to be had, especially, what's up, Muscles? Especially when we're thinking about where to put our money. When we're now, if you're cheering for George because the odds are insane. You know, if you're cheering for George and you think he can win, you could just take him to upset 8-1 dog. He's mentioned quite a few times that Cam got stopped to the body. He could be spamming stab jabs all night. We need more tournaments in boxing, in my opinion. Interesting. I think, in a way, I would definitely like to see, I don't know if a tournament style, like same night, but like definitely a strategy so champions could unify. GR at best Hitchins in the Amis, good win. But GAR beat, you know, Boots in the Amis multiple times. I'm pretty sure GAR beat Boots every time they fought in the Amis. But Boots wasn't really developed. I forgot Puyo versus Matias is going to happen. Yeah, I'm hyped for that as well. Aren't expensive. Remember that tournament with the middleweight? Yeah, that was, wasn't Andre Ward? That was old school. Are we talking the Andre Ward days? Maybe Serge Rebecca? I think so, if that's the one we're talking about. I think Ward won that. Arthur Abraham maybe was in there. This is the era, like the 2006, 7, 8 era. I think that's what we're talking about. Sean Porter beat Usyk in the Amis. So I mean, I really don't like. I will be at Matias Puello. I'd love to be at that fight. I'd love to see Subaru fight live. I wouldn't pick Boots to beat Gary. Yeah, even though like their bodies have changed a lot, you know what I'm saying? You could tell if you watch those amateur fights, Gary Antoine Russell, GAR, he really hasn't got too much big. He's gotten bigger, but Boots hit a growth spurt. George will upset, I think, Bobby. For you to come on the stream, and this is nothing taking a hit at you. For you to say George is going to beat Hitchins, you have to tell us why. What's up, Kanye? I appreciate you guys. David, do you think Zerto is ducking Jai? I don't think any. I mean, he said everything I heard Ramirez speak about. He said he wants that fight. I like Benavidez today. David sharing on his Instagram that he wants to fight Jai. Carlos, I appreciate the love you have. Guys, wherever you're tuning in, let's get these likes up. We're about 15 minutes in. If you guys are tuning in, asking questions, keeping the conversation going, I say thank you. Bro, I need to see Matias become champion, but he wouldn't have had a better chance against Gary Russell, in my opinion. But that's what I'm zooming. I think it's a bad matchup. I think Subaru Matias Puello is a bad matchup for Matias just because of his boxing acumen. Zoom in to finish that thought. I'm actually impressed that Matias has put himself in a position to fight for a world title again, because usually, you know, coming from Puerto Rico, we know about the aura he had, we know about the knockout to win ratio, but a lot of people were already questioning that resume. And when Liam Paro went down and took his belt, you started seeing a lot of people leaving that camp. People totally kind of just, you know, threw Matias away, and they were like, that was it. He was kind of a one-off. But, you know, he won a couple more fights, and now he's fighting for another title. Oh, shit, dope, bro. I always Tracy Towers. Puello might do him worse than Paro. Boxing masterclass. Yeah, and Puello's slick, man. GAR will eat up Matias. Yeah, I think so, too. I'm high on Gary Antoine Russell, man. Even his first loss against Puello, I don't think he was expected, because that was a tale of two fights. The first half of the fight, GAR was winning those rounds. Liam Paro is more defensively responsible, and box Hitchins and Kambosos would be yeah, exactly. In National Accord, George Kambosos enters the pocket naked. I mean, he'll throw a jab, but he doesn't have that technical long jab here to get you respect. He kind of like peppers his jab and then does all this sort of left, right movement, and then he gets in, and you're right. He's there to get hit. And I don't want to call it, when a guy has an awkward style, I don't want to call him one-dimensional, but he's predictable. You know what I mean? Like when you're facing a guy like George, you know what you're going to get, especially when you're going from range to the pocket to jab range. And Hitchins is a really smart fighter, and he's really accurate with his jabs. George taking more chances. That's what I'm thinking, Accord. And earlier on in this live stream, that's what I'm seeing. I did the film study. I uploaded my prediction. If you want to catch that, it's on my channel. I just uploaded an hour ago. I'm seeing an accurate jabber in Hitchins. I'm seeing a champion. Johnny, I know you mentioned this on the last slide, but I think Berlanga-Strauss fight will be the opposite. We don't have to agree on everything, guys. And we'll get to that if we want to go that. I appreciate, dude, I love when we disagree. We don't have to agree with anything that I say. I do not run an echo chamber. The last thing I ever want to do is have a channel where all you guys agree with me. I learn more through my predictions where I get it wrong from you guys calling me out and then bringing up points of like, hey, this happened. You said this would happen. So we don't have to agree. But we could get to that in a second. We're talking about the Shiraz Berlanga fight that's going to happen. But I want to kind of put a point on the Hitchins Kambosos Jr. because we got a couple more days. Put your hand up if Hitchins stops George. But I'd rather see Teo versus GR. I could see Teo versus GR, which is now possible. We'll see. I mean, Teo, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts right now. Hand up, Zach Scott. I do too, man. West Coast. I think that happens. Now, how about Andy Cruz? Because, all right, hand history vault. Yeah, I see this happening too. Okay. Can't believe they announced Netflix and then turn around and cancel the fight hours later. What? Hold on. What are you talking about, Gold member? Did I miss something here, guys? Are you talking about Canelo Crawford got canceled? What did I miss? Somebody just said something. What do you think about Andy Haruka? Good boxer. We can't move on yet. Somebody, I think it was Hand History Vault. Poyle's a good boxer. Pitbull, he's not. Am I getting trolled? Okay. Gold member. Yeah, gold member. I remember from yesterday. We don't agree, and you said that you don't really see you don't see Bud where I see him. So, all right, come on, man. We can't be trolling like that. I thought for sure I would have found that out. All right, cool. Moving forward, I see Tito got injured, which sucks for Tito. I had that video with John Boy Montreal. I had that video edited. It took me like each video, the produced and edited ones take me about 2 hours to do. I was uploading it, and then I got the message from one of my mates was like, did you see Mercado pulled out due to injury? I'm like, oh, I was salty about that. I don't know the guy Cruz's fight. He's a Japanese guy, 17-1 domestic level fighter. I did my film study on it, Zach. You could watch it on the channel. I don't think I think Andy Cruz, like I said, I'm high. Like maybe do I give too much credit to Bozy Ennis? I don't know. I think that's for my reasoning because I like a guy who makes a conscious decision to move his fight camp with a coach who teaches an element that his game is lacking. You know what I'm saying? He goes to Bozy to punt to figure out how to sit down on his punches, going from the amateur Cuban style to the pro game. So I like Andy in Philly. It is risky. Andy by stoppage is risky. He's only had 5 fights. 2 out of his last 4 he's won by stoppage. I think his opponent, Mashiro, I don't think he's world class though. He has a 17-1 record. I think he's a domestic level guy. And if you want to go what could it hurt to sprinkle a little money on Andy and Hitchins to win by stoppage? I mean, you don't have to go heavy on it. You could sprinkle a little bit on it if you want to have a little bit of drama in your weekend fights. I think there's a lot of money in Ghana, guys. There's a lot of money in Ghana this weekend. There are matchups in Ghana in which each guy, the favorite, is meant to steamroll their opponent. One of those guys is Tabiti. One of those guys is Brandon Glanton. And Brandon Glanton's a kid I've covered on this channel before. We were excited when Glanton got his shot on the world stage when he fought Chris Bellum-Smith. Fell short. But, that style's still there. Thought I was going to show. Rosary Hospital in the house. Guys, Rosary's back. The big fella. Thought Glanton was... Me too, West Goat. I picked Glanton. I was excited about Glanton. And, more than anything, West Goat, we knew that Brandon was stepping up. And anyone who knows boxing knew that Chris Billum-Smith, you have to hit him over the head with a coffee table. I was actually impressed with Billum-Smith, his energy. I didn't think Chris still had that much left in his gas tank. And it was a tough fight. And Billum-Smith just outmaneuvered, out-veteraned, and had a little bit more. If you guys look at somebody's offensive arsenal, a fighter throughout a long fight, I always like to look at it like a dial. You're turning it up. The veterans, the fighters who've been champions before, whenever they're fighting a guy and their opponent is stepping up to them, usually you'll see the veteran have another level, going through the gears sort of thing. And I think that's where Chris Billum-Smith beat Brandon Glanton. But I think Glanton is going to take, is taking a lot from that fight. It wasn't even that long ago. Yeah. What was that, 10 weeks ago, maybe? He's in Glanton's fighting in the co-main this weekend in Ghana. He's going to win by stoppage. If you guys have those odds, take Glanton by stoppage. Zerto didn't need to hit CBS with a coffee table. Yeah, but it's a saying, Rosary. Glanton looked tired. Yeah, he did. I don't think Glanton thought that CBS was going to be that tough. What's up, Rocky Austin? We're about 25 minutes in. And wherever you're tuning in, guys, just like the video, healthy conversation going. Rosary is back. Rosary was on our early morning live stream. Rosary was bringing all the hot takes. Yeah, I think he did. It was the work rate. And you know what? I underestimated it. I didn't think CBS would bring that energy. He impressed me. These guys get there and seem to know how to survive. The only reason I started boxing is because I have a heart condition where I never get tired. Can you confidently say George can pull? No, Rocky. No. I don't. I didn't mean to troll anybody. I didn't mean to troll anybody with the title, but I used that title because I know some people in my comments were saying George could win. So I use that title to challenge people to reason with me. Nobody has yet to tell me, nobody who's picking George has yet to tell me how he wins. So that's what I'm waiting for. Because obviously I'm picking Hitchins to win. My turmoil lies, I could see Richardson Hitchins stopping George. And I see a path to victory of how he stops George. People who love the 8-1 odds with George are liking him just because of the odds. I don't see his path to victory. I can't see how, me neither. Easy, same. I want to see Hitchins fight on the front foot again. I want to see Richardson Hitchins fight on the front foot and go for the stoppage. If George loses, I'll raffle off my mother-in-law. George by round 1 KO. That would be amazing. Kyle, that would be amazing. Have you seen Benavidez? Yeah, Hand History Vault. I posted it on our channel. David Benavidez posted on his Instagram story. He wants to fight Jai Apataya. Guys, weren't we just talking about that on our live stream? We were talking about Jai. Somebody called Jai a bum, and I was like, you're crazy. And then David Benavidez posted about it. Pretty insane with pressure fighters. Yeah, but Mac, I think George's pressure is a bit different. It is risky, Rosary. It's risky. It's not a lock. Like I said, there's two things I want to answer there. The lock would be the money line Hitchins to beat George. What I'm flirting with is a prop bet. And when I make that bet, I'll put it up in a couple days. I'm flirting with the idea of doing a prop bet. Andy Cruz, which is another one. Yeah, you called him a bum, Rosary. Way to hold yourself accountable. I like Rosary standing on business, though. At least Rosary is not shying away from those comments. Benavidez better. I think so too, Westgoat. I think Rosary hasn't seen enough tape on Jai. Jai's a bad dude, and Jai is a mean dude. There's certain guys who are boxers, who are skilled boxers. There's certain guys who are fighters, who are also good boxers. Jai Apataya wants to hurt you. There's a difference. You know, he brings an element, and, you know, you listen to him talk, you listen to him speak, you learn about his heritage from Samoa, and you see how he goes about his business, lives in the gym, constant professional, always in fight shape ready. The dude, go back when Jai got his jaw broken in 2 places and fought the whole fight and won. Insane. The dude's tough as nails. I have Hitchins winning. Yeah. Like I said, we got a couple days before we pick our method of victory. In the upload, in my analysis, you'll watch it. Hitchins beats George. Too many paths to victory. I think I am going to roll the dice a bit and sprinkle a little bit on a method of victory. We'll see what happens. Jai couldn't stop that bum Bradis. That's what you talked about. Benavidez will stop Jai. I don't know. Tito Mercado got hurt, man. He had to pull out. Yeah, I'm bummed about that, Rocky. That was a fight that I really wanted to see because John Boy Montreux would have gave Tito Mercado the fight Tito Mercado wanted, and that's why people wanted to see that fight. Yeah, man, Squayo. Poor Squayo. Kyle, did you watch that fight? The reason why I say poor Squayo, because in the 4th round, Jai knocked Squayo pretty much out with a body shot. Now, the ref didn't like how Jai's arm was tangled with Squayo, but it was a clean body rip. It wasn't a low blow. The ref said it wasn't a knockdown. And the very next round, Jai broke Squayo's jaw. So I'm thinking, like, you know, now Squayo's eating his food, drinking through a straw for like a few months with his jaw wired shut because the ref didn't accept the first knockdown in the 4th, which in my opinion was a knockdown. What do you think about Shakur's Kit Kat hands, punch a brick wall? Do you think that's false advertising? Poor bloke. Tito fights postponed off, and just like when he... Couple things here. Somebody brought up, yeah, Squayo. I mean, there was no... You only fight who's put in front of you, Rosary. What do I think about Shakur's Kit Kat hands? Did I miss something there? You said false advertising. Once again, a no name. I mean, he was an Italian champion, if you want to call him that. You know, you could only fight who they put in front of you. I don't think Jai ducks any smoke. He's been calling for big fights. You know, he can't force people to sign on the dotted line. He can't force promotional companies to put their fighters in front of him. You can only lace them up with who is willing to lace them up with you. I don't see a lot of guys putting their hand up to fight Jai Apataya. I think that's part of Benavidez doing that. You know what I'm saying? Benavidez is a guy, you got to love that guy too. You know, he doesn't dodge anything either. Random Italian champion. Agree. Reminds me of another fight recently where the ref fight continued. The guy got beat on for another 30 seconds. He waved it off. Yeah, Kyle. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, when you see a guy get his jaw broken, that's a brutal injury. So, little FYI, under the jawbone right here, the mandible, if you guys touch under your jaw here, you could feel a little indentation where it connects. It only takes, anatomically right here, it only takes 4 pounds of pressure for that to get broken. So when that does get broken, mate, you have to have a lot of times cosmetic surgery to get it rearranged. It's a brutal injury. Because it's connected to other, it's here, and then sometimes back here it gets broken. Benavidez, courage to call out, guys. I know. And you know, and David's young too, man. We haven't even seen and I'm not a huge David Benavidez like, I'm not a big fan of any one fighter, by the way. I love the sport of boxing. So Benavidez is still young. He's just now getting towards his physical prime. Having a hard time getting fights. I know. What's your thoughts on body? Good fighter, man. There's a lot of guys out there. It's a good question, Hand History Vault. Because I was having a chat with my buddy about guys. We didn't say body specifically, but guys with really good fighters internationally who aren't American. Give me 1 second. Lucas Body, yeah. We just saw him fight. 31 years old. I just didn't want to be wrong with what I was about to say. Canadian, 19-0, 15 knockouts. Yeah, we just covered him in March when he fought Rakaza. It's just like, it's tough for these guys. You know, there's a few guys from Canada, you know, who a lot of people in America don't know about. Who's the kid who came down and fought Ammo? The dude who just fought Ammo Williams. We covered him. He had a good record. He was a Canadian fighter, really tough guy, 35, 36 years old. He gave Ammo Williams a run for his money. Kakache and Ford going to fight maybe. Sugar Nunez is my guy right now. Plant who got knocked out. A lot of stuff going on. Why is Benavidez ducking Canelo a gold member? I think, what do they say? You got to pick up on people's predictive patterns. Volney, yes. We covered Patrice Volney. He showed me something, GOAT. Patrice Volney could box. Like, sometimes you watch fights and the guy who loses, you have to tell yourself, the guy who lost taught the guy who won on the cards a lesson. Because usually when we say what I'm about to say, the fighter loses. You know, like, oh, the dude was young in his career. Floyd taught Canelo a lesson. Canelo takes those lessons, adds to his defensive game, adds head movement, and he learned from the loss. Ammo Williams on paper beat Volney, but I guarantee Volney taught Ammo a lot in that fight. And even though I won a lot of money betting on Ammo Williams in that fight, I was nervous when we were hearing the scorecards, because you could make an argument that Patrice won that fight. Mason and Body couldn't come to terms on their fight. Damn. If they did, how do you see it going? That's a good question, man, because I got Body pulled up right now. 5'9" Orthodox fighter, you know, ranked number 13 worldwide. That is a great fight, Hands Vault. That Lucas Body versus Abdullah Mason is a great fight. And I'm a big Abdullah Mason guy, but I don't know where I stand with that. You know? Old man strength, 31 years old, dude, versus how old's Abdullah, 21? Similar style? Body, 15 of his wins by knockout? That's a dangerous fight for Abdullah Mason. Benavidez ain't waiting around. Foster versus Fulton. Who you got? Steve? Oh, I'm going with Stephen Fulton, man. O'Shaquie Foster, I was really high on. He's a good fighter, you know, obviously world champion. I think that Stephen Fulton has a little... I'd like to... I haven't broken down the tape, and it's not my prediction, but in that fight, I'm cheering for Fulton. It's not my prediction, though. He got a legacy to build. He's building his own path. Rock. Yeah, man, whoever just brought up the Lucas Body versus Abdullah Mason fight that didn't happen, Schofield versus... I'm not... Hand history. I'm not big on Floyd Schofield, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not big on Floyd. I don't think... I'm not saying Floyd... He's young. Floyd Schofield is young. He has a lot of time. But I don't see... I guess I'm not seeing what everyone else is seeing. there's nothing that I've seen from Floyd Schofield other than doing some things non-technically, turning his back on an opponent. I think Tevin Farmer beats Floyd Schofield. I do. I'm a gold member of Boxing Ever. I taught Tim Bradley everything. Gold member, man. I like you. Farmer really putting their hands on. I think so. And David, I'm not trying to talk trash about Kid Austin, right? And you guys are starting to understand my perspective on the game. I'm not like trolling when I say I don't see it in Kid Austin. I don't know if he's world class yet, and I don't know if his physical stature, even if his power is enough to get him. Do I see Floyd Schofield becoming a world champion? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Stephen Fulton has the edge. You gotta say that. I think Stephen Fulton also has a couple more sort of checks in the physical toolbox, I feel. But Osheki does present a problem to solve. Zero actual boxing growth. I got Schofield. I can see that, Carlos. I understand why people lean on Floyd, but you want to see young fighters leveling up. And sometimes I don't know if I've seen that in Schofield. I see Farmer's world class, guys. Tevin Farmer has a lot of close losses. Every time we bring him up, I tell you guys, and I don't always pick him to win. I picked Zepeda to beat him. Zepeda won. It was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Tevin Farmer looked good in that loss. And he's a tough out. Farmer's the underdog in my book. Mate, GOAT. If Tevin's the 2-1 dog against Floyd Schofield, we going heavy. I did not know those were the odds. They have Tevin Farmer as the dog. Mate, hopefully, if you guys could bet that right now, because obviously I'm not getting that bet, I would gladly put a lot of money on Tevin to win that fight. I think Floyd can maybe beat Zepeda. Schofield to beat Zepeda? No way. Come on, man. No way. I don't see it. William Zepeda, any guy who weaponizes their cardio. Now, if you're thinking that Zepeda's going to walk on to something against Schofield, I don't know, man. William Zepeda, the way he weaponizes his cardio, he weaponizes his output, he's always in your face. That alone for a power puncher, you got to understand, a power puncher doesn't feel fighting off the back foot. Zepeda's going to force you into his phone booth. I don't think Schofield's even close to ready to fight a William Zepeda. We'll see how he looks against Tevin. This is why they made the fight. I'm excited for Shakur versus Zepeda. Schofield got dropped by random. Yeah, do we really see Schofield leveling up, guys? How he went about what happened to him. He had to pull out against Shakur. We know about the media. We know his dad doesn't do him any sort of due justice. His pops, Auntie Sco. We know Auntie Sco. Auntie Sco blocked me on Instagram. So yeah, just the other day I'm trying to do a stat post, and I tried to tag, and I was like, I got blocked by Auntie Sco. Do you guys follow do you guys follow Greg Hackett on YouTube? Bro, getting back this past weekend, I remember you picked Kelvin over Albright. No, Rocky, I'd stayed away from that fight. If you asked me on a live stream who I thought was going to win, I might have said Kelvin, but I didn't bet on that fight. Rocky Hernandez fought the same guy Schofield fought recently and looked better against him. Schofield is hungry. Yeah. TF. How do you feel about Xander? I'm a big Xander Zayas fan. He's fighting Chino. Kudos to Chino getting that fight. He beat Charles Conwell. I think Xander Zayas is next, guy. Xander Zayas is a dog, and he's young. I think his gas tank will be vulnerability, but Zepeda gets hit a lot. Are you a boxer? I started boxing as a 7-year-old, if you're asking me. I still train. I'm 43. I spar. I do I don't do it competitively, but 100%. 9-3, Shakur only rounds who loses first. He takes off. I'd have bet on Keon Davis, expecting Keyshawn to do it. High on Xander, has no pop. He's young too, though, West. I think that Chino Maidana, Perez, the one who just beat Charles Conwell, is fighting Xander Zayas. And what I saw Chino Perez against Conwell really impressed me. Exactly, I didn't realize that Chino was going to have a high fight IQ like that. I didn't realize that Conwell was going to be so one-dimensional. You got to understand, Conwell, he had that aura about him too. High knockout to win ratio. Fought a guy who passed away. Rest in peace. And for him not to be able to make adjustments against Chino, I was shocked. Conwell's entries into the pocket every time. Here, duck, fall to Chino's left side and stay there for the rest of the round while Chino's slipping and landing. He just didn't show up. He didn't look right to me. And, you know, like I said, at this stage of the game, you can't afford to have an off night. Let's give credit to Coach Malachi Williams of Boxing, True Media Channel. He coined the term, Mom. Did he? I thought it was Greg Hackett. I thought it was Greg. All right, if you're right, Rocky, I'm gonna give. I don't know who Malachi is, but I follow Greg Hackett on Insta and YouTube and Facebook, and he's the first who I ever heard call Floyd Schofield Sr. Auntie Sco, because that and the way Greg Hackett did, he made a whole video. I saw people saying Xander's not ready. No, Xander's ready. Campbell by knockout. Anonymous, tell me how. I have an 8-pack. I do at 43. Cool hoodie. It's old school. Guys, this is my old gambling show on Instagram. This is an MMA show. I used to do an UFC show just like this on Instagram called Easy Money. And I used to do it with a journalist out of Washington, D.C. It was Coach Malachi. They had a riff during Malachi Williams' podcast. I don't know what that is. All right. Either or, salute to him. GOAT, first person I heard say it was Shakur, but I don't think he coined. Okay, so you have a 6-pack. You have whatever, mate. Daniel Dubois, Usyk. I got Usyk decision. It's an interesting fight. Auntie Sco is hilarious, so he is. I'm pissed he blocked me. I have a training regime that's crazy. Yeah, Dubois, Usyk. You got Usyk also. It's hard, man. It's a tough one. Daniel Dubois, you know, his most recent version, his young energy, his power. I always, though, hesitate with a guy who's not 100%, has a pattern of psychologically being locked in. So we'll wait till we get there. Dubois improved. He is. TKO, he's going to frustrate Daniel. I mean, I covered that first fight, guys. We talked about the low blow. I stand on it, mate. I don't think that was a low blow. I think that was a clean body rip. I do. That's just a hot take of mine. I thought that was a legal shot. I do. I thought Usyk, that should have been a legal knockdown. I've watched it over and over. I watched where Usyk wears his belt, his guard. Man, that. And it's crazy to see Dubois bounce back from that. Psychologically, the longer the fight goes on, the more likely Usyk wins. It's not a hot take. Usyk was knocked. Well, you know, I took a lot of heat on my channel for siding with Dubois on that. You know, a lot of people came at me. Usyk would have gotten back up, though. Yeah, but he didn't. Now, he was hurt. That was a brutal shot. Yeah, it was a brutal shot. I think this time Dubois should actually hit him in the nuts before the count. Yeah, but you have to understand what that does to a fighter's mental. Did you guys watch Liam Wilson versus Emmanuel Navarrete? So my point is, whenever a fighter lands what they either a knockdown or maybe they think they won because the fighter is out, and then something happens like the Navarrete fight where we did that fight too, and that was a 19 count. By the time Liam, if you put the Navarrete knockdown and count it out next to the Justice Hooney knockdown and count it out, it's insane. Maybe I'll do a video because I did it with my buddy over here the other night. My girl and I, we're watching boxing, and I bring those two fights up, and I have one on my big screen and one on my laptop. The Mindoro. I'll come at you. Let me get to that point, Rocky. And when Liam Wilson, when Navarrete got back up, Wilson's whole body changed. He thought he became a world champion. We know Navarrete stopped him in the later rounds. Same with Dubois. Dubois thought he won. And it does, when you're in the heat of battle, your temperature is at a certain level. And when you think you won, it goes to a certain level. And when that changes, it drops. And it's tough. It's hard to explain that if you've never been into a fight. Navarrete should have been knocked out. 100%. Tevin Farmer is mate, I'm all over Tevin. You know what I'm talking about. The Hooney knockdown, the referee had an Uber win. Yeah. If you guys want to do your own research, do it. Pull up the Navarrete knockdown. Pull up the Hooney knockdown. It's insane. Also, if you want to go old school, because I'm an old head, pull up, and I'm not a Mike Tyson fan. Hot take, not a Mike Tyson guy. But pull up when Buster Douglas, the knockdown. In the round before Buster knocks Tyson out, watch the count when Tyson drops Douglas, because that fight should, a lot of people think that fight should have been stopped, but it was a long count, and Douglas got up. So, yeah, it all just, there's a lot of variables, but my point was Dubois thought it was over. Do you think Mike was over it? Look, if we should do a whole video, on Mike. My whole reason with Mike is a bit personal. You know, I've had a, man, this dude, I don't want to get, look, I respect, yeah, Mike Tyson is a legend. Dude, when I was a kid, we would tune, there was a time in boxing where you would pay for executions. So, like, there was a period of Mike Tyson, and I was fortunate enough to grow up and watch these fights. You were paying for an execution, and you knew the fight was going to go a minute. Tyson had a great career. Yeah, of course. Mike Tyson, legendary heavyweight, mate. You know what I'm saying? Did it young, too. Did it young. I think he was 23 when he lost to Buster Douglas. Well, my thing is, Mike Tyson lived in Southington, Ohio. So after he got out of prison, he bought this mansion in Southington, Ohio. You can fact check me. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, and my mom was a nurse. So part of Mike Tyson sort of, after you get out of prison, parole, he had to give back to the community, and he would do a lot of his community service at the nursing home that my mother was running. And, you know, for whatever it is, you know what Tyson was in prison for. You hear stories when he was younger, how he would treat people. And I was a kid. I started boxing as a 7-year-old. A lot of the guys that my boxing coach, my father, would have me watch, and a lot of guys I looked up to, they carried themselves in a different way than Tyson would. And granted, you know, read the Book of Five Rings, Musashi. It's a book about a samurai. And this is why, you know, it left such an imprint on me. I've lived my whole life kind of this way. I'm 43. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I train every day. I write books. I'm a published author. I'm a student of the game. My point is, and that's why I meant it was personal. Tyson was a mad savage, dude. Tyson was a madman. He lived his life a certain way. And, you know, it's a blood sport. I don't judge him. I'm not judging him. I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper. It's just that if I had a son, he's not a fighter that I would have my son, my nephew, look up to. That's all I'm going to say. And I'll leave it at that. But, you know, I'm not going to say he was overrated. At one time, guys, he was the most feared fighter of all time. And you can't reproduce that fear. You can't manufacture that fear. I don't think that fear is lucky. I think that fear is earned, and Tyson earned it. And every time he stepped in the ring for a certain short amount of time, people feared him, and that's something to say. And we haven't seen anything like that since. That's all I'm going to say. All right, Rocky. John Mindoro, I'm writing him down. I'm writing him down right now. You brought it up 3 times, Rocky, and I'm doing my due diligence. I'm going to research your boy, John Mindoro. You said he's a middleweight Filipino. And, all right, I'll look him up. Guys, wherever you're tuning in, like this video. Tyson should be allowed to chaperone any class in school. Yeah. Like I said, dude. Savage, man. I wonder, big David Tua guy. I did a documentary on David Tua like 4 years ago, and he reshared it on Facebook. It made my whole day. David Tua, dude. God damn. Ike, his fight versus Ike. Oh my God. If you guys don't know who I'm talking about, YouTube, David Tua versus Ike Abekwe. He was a different breed. Yeah. And I was just brainstorming because I was like, has there ever been his knockout? John Ruiz was insane. Do you think Tank will take a bathroom break round 7 in the rematch? I don't know. Do we have a lot of Tank fans here? A lot of Gervonta Tank Davis fans here? Ruiz at one time had his moments. Tim 2 is a minus. He sent Ruiz down. Dude, David 2's power was absolutely insane, though. His frame, his bone structure. Dude, follow him on Instagram. He's super religious, and he's always hitting the bags, and he's always training, and he's always putting up quotes. I love it. I love it. I love seeing an old-timer like that who's just still living it. You know what I mean? David Tua, Tank. All right, so we have Tank fans. So let's get some Tank fans talking about that. I got Israel Mercado, Tito's cousin, over Brandon Pizarro. He's impressed. Yeah, that is a fight we haven't really talked about more. It's a good call. That's on the, still don't know, think he's knocked out Roach. Guys, do you think Tank, how does Tank look? Does Tank level up against Roach, or have we seen Tank's best? You know, he's 30 now. He's 30 plus. Tank's not in his 20s. Have we seen Tank's best? You got Kenneth Sims or Oscar. Great fight. Look, there was a time where I wouldn't even have commented on that question. Kenneth Sims and Oscar Duarte. I wouldn't have even taken the time to answer it. But looking at Oscar Duarte's most recent, what he looks like now, both physically and, sort of what he took from that Ryan Garcia loss, Oscar Duarte now versus Kenneth Sims Jr. is a closer fight than I would have said even a year ago. I mean, once again, I like watching guys from one performance to another leveling up. I think Tank does the right adjustments and wins. I guess, Don Julio, my question, though, is at this stage in the game, we know what Tank presents, right? There's nothing that he's going to add to. He can't really add to his arsenal. So I'm thinking Lamont Roach kind of showed the blueprint how to beat Tank Davis. You got to bully a bully. And Tank wasn't expecting that. Lamont Roach how Lamont Roach was able to catch and shoot Tank in the pocket. Watch that fight. Rewatch the Tank. And a lot of people were saying, oh, it was the mid-rounds. No, Roach's game plan from jump. Roach's game plan from jump was to let me see this dude's power, let me feel his power, and then once he was able to make the decision, he made a decision, an educated decision to be able to take the power. Then he started catching and shooting, which was fun to watch. And then that's where I think even the crowd, with Tank Davis, I think hearing even the oohs and ahs from the crowd when Roach was landing counters, I think that was kind of affecting him. I thought we saw Tank rattled. I broke down the video when he took a knee. I mean, that got super. I think to this day, it's my most viewed YouTube short. I took a beating for that because I said that, he took a knee because he was frazzled. I said that Tank took a knee because it was the first time in a fight in his career that he had to, face some real adversity. I think Tank came too confident, didn't box. And and Lamont Roach boxed. Man, Lamont Roach impressed me. I was not expecting that from Roach. Granted, we should have known he had a, great career at 130. But even when you look at, his most recent performances, I don't think anyone guard peels frame it yet. Was 100%, dude. Every little thing he was doing was so nice. Off the line. And then he started chatting too. And then when Lamont was catching and shooting, he started chatting a bit. Boy, I have money on Tank. And I was screaming at the TV cheering for Roach. It was insane. Cherry pick gone wrong. Tank fight. Yeah, see, that's why I don't even want to talk about it. You're not going to hear me talk about Jake Paul on my channel, guys. I'm sorry. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So we could just bypass that chat. I'm not going to talk about that dude on my channel. But back to Roach. He fought really well. Did Tank even know how to box? Basically just caught with his power. And, I mean, did Tank have a plan B? And sometimes... No, Tank's a very skilled boxer. He does a lot of things really well. He's a very smart fighter as well. He's one of these guys who has a lot of gifts, but he has a lot of skill. I mean, he's been boxing since he was 3 or 4 years old. Perfect frame, absorbing body shots. I was really impressed, Johnny. You see the rumors on a potential Bennett. Yeah, we talked about it more earlier in the chat, and I put it up on our post section. You know what I was really impressed too with Roach? Not only the durability he had in that fight, but sort of his mobility. Like, there's certain guys, somebody brought up Tim Tszyu. Let's think about what Tim Tszyu and Lamont Roach, and I'm not comparing their fight styles, I'm comparing their toolbox, okay? When you see Lamont Roach versus Tank and you watch that fight and you see it's playing out in a phone booth, you're watching Lamont Roach being able to get out of the way of punches without moving his feet. That is maneuverability and mobility. So Roach was able to hear, shell, move, all here, and still punch, still count. And his feet didn't move. He's staying in the pocket. High mobility, super durable. Tim Tszyu doesn't have that in his toolbox. Tszyu is stiffer, up on his front foot, head on the straight line, here, take. And the only reason I reference that is sometimes what Roach was doing really well against Tank could get overlooked by boxing fans if you're not looking for it. And that's where what Roach was able to do in the wheelhouse, in the pocket, in the phone booth, call it whatever you want, being able to slip out of the way and return without his feet moving, man, I could watch that dude fight. I'd never seen that version of him. I mean, you saw it in glimpses, but I think both guys brought the best out of each other. And, Tank fans, I'm glad they're fighting again. I heard Tank wasn't focused for a while. Yeah, Calvin not being there, I definitely think played a role. It did. It would be like if we saw Tim is my boy. He is a scrapper, of course. I've watched Tim go, you know, when he turned pro. I've had his dad on the channel. I've interviewed Costa Zoo. Costa Zoo's in my second book. I interviewed Costa in 2016 when Tim was just turning pro. So yeah, Tim is, you know, I cheer for Tim. I was just using that as an example. You have fighters who made it, who are both former world champions at the highest level, but you start seeing a tool belt, what one fighter has, what one fighter doesn't have. And, you know, with Lamont Roach, that maneuverability, that mobility was really impressive to me. Being able to elude danger without moving your feet. That is a skill that not a lot of fighters could do. And when you're fighting a big puncher who's used to getting the respect and, you know, using their power to back their opponents up, that it wasn't working with Roach. A lot of it was because he was so elusive and balanced in his feet and being able to move in and out of the danger zone, but not move his feet. So he's still in a position to hit. He's still in a position to catch and shoot. So catch and shooting isn't just being able to pull the trigger. You have to have your distance on point, you have to have your defense on point, and you have to be able to pull the trigger. And mate, Lamont Roach was doing all of that. It was super fun to watch. I became a fan that night. And a lot of Lamont Roach fans will be like, dude, he's been fighting like this this whole time. You know, you should have been a fan the whole time. But sometimes I'll show his last hope. Last hope for what? Jai Apataya, world champion. You know, Liam Parle was a champion. Last hope for what? There's a lot of Aussies out there fighting. Justice Hooney, so close, only 26. I think Hooney will be a world champion. But yeah, I think Zoo, Kambosos. You know, Kambosos is fighting for a world title. If we're talking hope, who you got in the Zoo versus Fandora rematch? Tank knockout 9-12 body shot. Zoo versus Fandora this time around, guys. When we think about going into a matchup, you have to add in the aura element, the energy element. And it's fair to say that Tim Tszyu before the first Seb Fandora fight is not the same Tim Tszyu now. He's obviously, Tim Tszyu was coming off that knockout stoppage of Tony Harrison. You know, rumors that he was going to fight Terrence Bud Crawford, rumors he wanted to fight Charlo, rumors he had his hit list, and then he takes the Bakr Murtazala fight after the first Seb fight, and we saw what happened. And so now going into this fight with Seb, I don't know, man. I'll be breaking that video down. I'm kind of torn. Granted, Tszyu fought Joey Spencer. I didn't really see... The Tszyu I saw against Spencer was the exact Tszyu I saw against Murtazaev, was the exact Tszyu I saw against Fandora. Now, that might be a good thing, you know? Which do you rep harder? Oh, America. Come on. Come on, man. America. Ohio. Well, the real question would be, which one do I rep harder, Youngstown or Long Beach? That's a real question for me. Because, you know, I spent my 20s in Long Beach, and I have a lot of good connections in Long Beach, the 562. I had a really, really good part of my life there in my 20s. But Youngstown are my roots, Youngstown, Ohio. I've been in Sydney for 10 years, 11 years now. But the real question is, you know, I'm torn between the Youngstown, Ohio, and Long Beach, California. But yeah, Tszyu, Fandora, I saw you guys brought up another. What's going on, DJ? Guys, wherever you are, like this video. We're approaching an hour. I'm going to stay on for a couple more minutes. I got one more client. I coach a husband and wife downstairs. They're coming to do some powerlifting. Is the gang politics is entrenched in Cali daily life, as people say? 100%. So, personal story, two of my best friends were in a gang called the TRGs. So, one of my closest mates at the time was a dude named Kafaya. Here's a true story. I'll go off on a tangent. So, I'm 24 years old at the time, and I meet my boy K. We called him K. His name was Kafaya at the gym. I'm training at this LA Fitness on Cherry and Wardlow in a neighborhood in Long Beach called California Heights. And meet Kafaya. We start training together, smoking weed, kicking it all the time. And he invites me to one of his parties. And I go to his house, and it's like 20 dudes that kind of look like K. I'm like, bro, man, where are all you boys from? He's like, Cambodia. And I go, for real? And I go, where are all the adults at? He goes, mate, we're all orphans. I go, what are you talking? He was like, haven't you heard of the Khmer Rouge? And at the time, I had never heard of the Khmer Rouge. Learned about it, researched it. It's what happened late 70s, early 80s in Cambodia. The missionaries in America went in after this genocide occurred and took all the orphan children and brought them to Utah. And a big sector of the orphaned male Cambodian boys from Utah went to Long Beach, California. So there's a bigger settlement at the time in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, of Cambodians in Long Beach than anywhere else other than Cambodia. And they formed a gang called TRGs. And my boy was right up there, to where like I would be at clubs and stuff and, you know, get into some kind of issues. And you know, one time I'm at this bar in Long Beach, California, in an alley. There's 6 Mexican dudes circling me and my boy because my boy was trying to get one of their girls. And it was all, and you know, who I am here, guys, is who I've always been. You know, I don't take life too serious, but my boy was drunk and we're circled by these 6 Mexican dudes. And I call Kafaya up. Kafaya rolls up within like 5 minutes, jumps out the whip, popped his trunk, and just escalated it from here to here. And I had to talk him down, be like, bro, what are you doing? You know, you don't pull anything out the trunk. So anyway, the point is, yeah, they take it, at least this was 2004 to 2010 when I lived there. They took it real serious. Kafaya moved to Fresno now, and I don't think he's about that. Maybe he's still, I talked to him on Instagram. I know he's a longshoreman now, but yeah, they take the gangs. But what I picked up on, it was more of a brotherhood. You know, it was more of a community when you're not connected to anybody in a foreign land and you're around a like-minded people. So they didn't, you know, they partied a lot, smoked a lot of weed, did a lot of blow, drank a lot of Hennessy, and just kind of kicked it together. So you could call that a gang. And the TRGs, I think they have a presence in, pretty sure in the prison systems in California. But yeah, I'll post a photo. I'll put it up in my post section. It's you'd be shocked. It's me, Kafaya, and his boy Panaka. And yeah, the good old days. That's right. We old now. Chicago, the shine. Johnny. I mean, I grew up in Youngstown. I didn't know what race was, so I moved to California, which is crazy. I was into gangster rap, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm 43, so my favorite rappers, we talked about this on the other live stream. Obviously, Bone Thugs is there from Cleveland, but I was a Tupac fan over Biggie. No offense to Biggie fans, but I was always a Tupac fan. DMX was one of my favorite rappers. I'll never forget, I'm a sophomore in high school when DMX's first album came out. Oh God, that changed the whole game. No, I'm a big No Limit guy. Dude, Master P was my guy for sure. Who am I missing? Eazy-E for sure, because Eazy-E had a connection with Bone. I like Too Short out west. Too Short was my guy. So I mean, hip hop was my favorite. And then after high school, everything kind of switched when Tupac and Biggie got killed, though, for me. My music shifted. I started getting into like a lot of like reggae, a lot of folk music. But if you listen to my hip hop mixes now, it's all that 90s stuff. Cheetah Girl, Spice Girls. Guys, Selly Cell in the house. Stay tuned. I'm uploading another video. I'm probably going to get that Brandon Glanton video uploaded. We got Juan Francisco Estrada fighting in Mexico, El Gallo. We got Nonito Donaire is fighting in Argentina this weekend. I'm going to get to both of those fights. I'll be uploading them. Stay tuned to the channel. We'll be going live every single day. If you haven't already liked this video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you guys. Let's get this money.